Unit rates with fractions. So previously we talked about unit rates and how they are rates that compare a quantity to one of another quantity, and keeping in mind with rates that rates compare two different quantities. So you always have to make sure that your rates and your answers have labels. Please make sure to write me. That's what they say. Alright, so we're just going to take a look at how to solve these right now. We're not going to look at pulling the information out of word problems. That's going to come next. So what we have to remember is that when we're looking for a unit rate, we're looking for one of the units to be 1. Our rates are always set up as y over x, and when we're looking for the unit rate, we will always want x to get to 1. So for all of these, you're trying to figure out how do I get my x, which is my denominator, to 1. So I can actually just go through, and I know that you had to write these down, but I can actually just go through and write equals something over 1, equals something over 1, equals something over 1. Now remember when we had unit rates with whole numbers, like if I had $9 for 3 toy cars, I would divide both of these by 3 because that would get me to 1. So then that told me it was $3 per one car. So I know how to go from one number to the actual number 1. That doesn't change when it comes to fractions. All right, so you're still doing the same thing. You're still following that same process. It's just a matter of remembering how to actually divide with fractions. I'm going to tell you right now, when you're doing this, set it up. Do not try to just jump to the division. Set it up, show the different steps. Take the baby steps to make sure that you're doing it correctly. As time goes on, we can start to take away those little pieces or those little stepping stones to make sure that we're getting it correct. But do not try to jump to division right off the bat. All right, so here I have 5/8 of a square foot per 1/4 of an hour. So I want to know how many square feet are going to get painted in a full hour. So this is 1 hour. So I know that in order to go from 1/4 to 1, I have to divide by 1/4 because we know that any number divided by itself gives us 1. I also know that based on the rules of math, what I do to one, I have to do to the other. So now I know I have to do 5/8 and I have to divide it by 1/4. So now I have 5/8 and I'm going to divide it by 1/4. Now I have to take into account the rules of dividing with fractions. And that is our keep, change, flip. Or keep, flip, change, however you want to go through it. But you keep that first number, you flip the second number to its reciprocal, and then you can change to multiplication. Now I can just go ahead and multiply across, and I get 20 over 8. That tells me that I have 20 pieces, and I want 8 in each group, which tells me I can make 2 full groups. 2 times 8 is 16, so 20 minus 16 is 4. So this is 2 and 4/8. Both of these can be divided by 2. So I get 2 and 1/2. So what that tells me is that 2 and 1/2 square feet get painted in 1 hour. Again, that process doesn't change at all. It's just the fear of the fractions that makes us look like it's so hard. But if you continue to practice with it, I promise you it will get easier. So again, we have to go from 3/4 to 1. So I have $55 per 3/4 ton. And so I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 3/4 because that's how I go from 3/4 to 1. What I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So now I have to actually look at the problem and write it out as I normally would. I know that 55 has to go over 1, so it becomes improper. Then this becomes 55 over 1, because I keep, I flip, and then I can change. All right, and 55 times 4, so I can always come off to the side and do the multiplication. And I have 5 times 4, which is 20, plus 2 more is 22. So I get 220 over 3. So then now I have 220. 3 are going into each group. It can't go into 2, but it can go into 22 7 times. So minus 21. Bring down the 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm left with 1. So this becomes 73 and 1/3. So this tells me that there's 73 and 1/3 dollars per 1 ton. Now technically I should write that a little nicer, and I should change that fraction to a decimal, which I know is 33 hundredths repeating. So it's $73.33 per 1 ton. Now, we're to the next two, so if you feel comfortable and you want to try these on your own and then come back and check your work, you're more than welcome to. If you would like to watch another one and then try the last one, you're more than welcome to. Just always make sure to come back and check your answers. Alright, so what am I going to divide by here? Well, on both, I'm going to divide by 1.5. What I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So here I get 3/4, and I'm dividing by 1 1/2. Now remember, I have to change this to a mixed number, to an improper fraction first. So I have one group of 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I have 3/4. And it's still division because all I'm doing right now is converting to an improper fraction. Now I can change it to multiplication. So I get 3/4 times 2 over 3. I can do my multiplication and I get 6/12. I know I can divide both of these by 6 and I get 1/2. So every half of a pound equals 1 serving. Or it's half of a pound per serving. Alright, last but not least, I have 3.5 miles in 1 1/4 hours. So I'm going to divide both by 1 1/4. And I know that this automatically gets me to 1, so I don't have to show the extra work for that. But here, I do want to set up that problem. Show me that you're doing 3 1/2 divided by 1 1/4. Remember, convert first. So I have 3 groups of 2, which is 6, plus the extra is 7 over 2. It's still a division problem. I'm not to the keep, flip, change yet. Here I have one group of 4, which is 4, plus 1 is 5, so I get divided by 5/4. Here I have 7 over 2 times 4 over 5. You have to make sure that you flip it. If you don't flip it, you're going to get the incorrect answer. And it makes a huge difference. So here I get 7 times 4 is 28. 2 times 5 is 10. And we know that that's Mr. Improper, so we have to change it to a mixed number. So I have 28 pieces. 10 are going into each group. 10 can't go into 2, but it can go into 28 2 times. And we're left with 8. So this is 2 8/10. And we know both of these can be divided by 2. So I end up with an answer of 2 4/5 miles per 1 hour. Again, always make sure to set up those rates first as your y over x. Show those steps. So show what you're going to divide. Show how they change from mixed to improper. And then show how that division actually works. The more that you start writing these pieces down, the more often you're going to get correct answers. And then the sooner you're going to be able to start pulling away steps to make that process go a little bit faster.